Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with lesson number 2 in our incredible new tutorial series where you are going to learn to code in Python or you are going to die trying. What I'm going to need you to do is pour yourself a nice strong cup of black coffee. That's black coffee, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And I'm going to need you to get ready to learn some cool new stuff. So what I will need you to do is come over and I need you to call up your most excellent Python idle. You can go down in your little Windows search bar and search on idle. We did this last week, and click on idle Python. And we end up with this most excellent idle shell that we can start playing with Python. And it annoys me that it brings this thing in really tall, so I've got to do a little Windows management here to make sure that I end up with something that doesn't go off the bottom of the screen. That is looking pretty darn good. And let me I wish it would pop up the same size that I'd left it before, but it does not. But if I make it like that, you are going to be able to see it without anything going off the bottom of the screen. Okay. I also, as you're getting your idle called up, I, as always, want to give a shout out to you guys that are helping me out over at Patreon. It is your help and your encouragement that keeps these great lessons coming. You guys that are not helping out yet, take a look down in the description. There is a link over to my Patreon account. Think about hopping on over there and hooking a brother up. But enough of this shameless self-promotion, talking about my Patreon account. Let's jump in and let's get ready to learn some cool new stuff. Okay, so last week we learned how to print in Python, how to print and formatted print in Python. We also learned our basic mathematical operators of add, subtract, multiply, divide, the most excellent mod function. And then we also learned about how to raise something to a power. We also learned a little bit about variable types. We looked at string variables, we looked at int variables, integers, and then we also looked at floats. Well, what we're going to learn today is a little bit more advanced type of variable type, and I want to go ahead and do this right at the start because this is one of those foundational things that we're going to need. So as we start programming in Python, you really need to understand these data types. And what we're going to do is we're going to learn about what's called arrays or list. And the way you could think about this is that if we just have the variable x, you can think of it as a bucket. The bucket is labeled x, and then you can put a number in there. And if you ever go and look at x, it will return to you the number that was put in that bucket. So like if you put 4 marbles in x and then you say print x, it prints 4. Well, now if you put 7 marbles in x and say print x, it prints 7. And so the 7 would overwrite the 4. So whatever the last number you put in, that's the one that's going to return it. If you put in a 4 and then you put in a 7, it forgets the 4 and it remembers 7. So with these standard variable types, you can have one number in the variable at a time. Now, the problem with that is sometimes you have one concept. Let's say that you're going to keep track of grades. You have one concept, which is a student's grades, but there's going to be more than one grade. Well, one way to do that is you could say grade 1 is equal to 97. You could say grade 2 is equal to 98, and you could say grade 3 is equal to 76, and then you could say print, and then you could print grade 2 and you would get your 98 back. But the problem with this is that when you're writing the program as a coder, you don't know whether someone might have 3 grades or 50 grades, and then also doing it this way, it would require them to go in and change the program to change the grades. And so you need a more flexible data structure to hold the grades. And so the way you could do that is you could use an array, a Python array or a Python list. And let me show you how that works. In that case, instead of having a different variable, a different bucket for each number for each grade, what we're going to create is a special type of variable, which is called an array, and that array is more like a file cabinet that has different slots. And so I can call the variable grade, but now instead of just a big bucket, there is slots inside of it, and there's the first grade, the second grade, the third grade, the fourth grade, and then I can call out whichever one I wanted. And so the way that would work is I am going to call the variable grade, and then I'll call it grades because there's going to be more than one, and then I'm going to say it's equal to, now in the bracket what I'm going to put is all my grades, 97, okay, 98, and then 76, and let's put in some more. Let's put in 54, let's put in 99, let's put in 85, and let's put in 67. All right, now I've got to close that. Okay, and now I press enter. Now I can say print, and then I can print grades like that, and then what does it print? It prints the list of grades. So you see, I have one variable. The variable is an array. It is called grades, and that grades contains the whole list of grades. Now that's kind of interesting, but really what do you want? You want to access individual grades, because let's say you might want to print an individual grade, or you might want to change an individual grade. You've got to be able to address the grades individually. So the way you do that is I'm going to print, just to show you, the array or the variable is grades, and now I can specify which one, like the first one, the second one, the third one. I can tell it to print the grade in a certain slot. So inside of the bracket, I need to tell it the slot position. And so let's say I say print grades 2, okay, grades in slot 2, and then I'm going to close that. Now, before you do this, look here at grades, okay, and tell me what number you think it is going to print. Tell me, what number is it going to print? Now, if you said 98, you would be wrong. Okay, you would be wrong. Why? Because as a normal human being, you start counting at 1. So this would be 1, and this would be 2. Okay, but computer programmers are not normal humans in any sense of the word, and computer programmers and computer programs start counting at 0. So what you got to see is this is the 0th slot, this is the first slot, and this is the second slot. So when I said print grades of 2, it goes 0, 1, 2, and it prints 76. Pretty cool, huh? And so if I wanted the 98, that is in the first slot. So I would say print, and then I would say grades, and then that is in the first slot, and then I close it up, and boom, it's like that. I could also say something like X is equal to grades of 0 plus grades of, let's say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, grades of 6, okay, and then that sets that. Why did I get that little, ooh, I don't have a, I guess I didn't. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't need to close that parentheses because I'm calculating X, okay? And then I'm going to say print X. And then what is that? 164 would be 97 plus 67 is 164. So you see, you could start doing math on these things. You can start doing math on them. Okay, again, if I don't put an index, I can just print, and I can print grades, and it will print that whole list of grades. It will print the whole array, or if I put grades of something, it will print that index. So this is 0, 1, 2, This is the slot number 3. You notice you can type it in without putting the print, and it will actually print it out. Little pro tip there for you to know. Okay, now the array data structures can get even more sophisticated than this. This is like, if you're thinking about grades, you could have one long list of grades, all right? But there's other data sets that are by their very nature 2 dimensions, where you would have rows and you would have columns. Okay, what would be a data type that would have rows and columns? Well, if you think, it would be like a photograph, because a photograph has got pixels, a row of pixels, another row of pixels, another row of pixels, another row of pixels, and each pixel has a value, and then that's how a photograph is made. It is a 2-dimensional array. So let's try doing that. Okay, the way I would do that is I could say picture, and that would be equal to, and I'm going to make it an array, okay? But now the first row needs to be an array, so I am going to open up another bracket. And so the first row is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And now it's 4, the picture is 4 pixels wide. So I've got all 4 pixels of the first row. I'm going to close that, and now I got to give it the second row. So that would be 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to close that, and now I'm going to have the third row, which is going to be 9, 10, 11, 12. Ooh, I use periods instead of commas. That looks like an IP address, doesn't it? My bad. Okay. Now, I closed that row, and now I got to close the overall array. Okay, and it liked it. So now I could say print, and I could print picture, and then what it prints is, it prints the array. The first row is 1, 2, 3, 4. The second row is 5, 6, 7, 8. The third row is 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, now, what if I wanted to look at the first row? Well, I would say print, and then I would say picture, and then what do I want? I want to address it, and I say the first row. Okay, now what is that going to print? It's going to print 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You would be wrong, because this is the 0th row, and this is the row 1, because again, programming languages and programmers start counting at 0. So the 1 row would be this one, and that is 5, 6, 7, 8. If we wanted the actual first one, it is the 0th one. So we would say print, and then I would say picture of what? Picture of 0, like that. Okay, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Similarly, print, and we're going to print picture, and we are going to print picture. And let's say this would be 0, 1, 2, so this would be row 2. Gotta close it like that, and that is that last row, which is the row number 2, 0, 1, 2, and that's 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so you see I can go grab that data one row at a time. But a lot of times you would want to address this individual number. How do I do that? I put another index on it. So I'm going to say print, and then I'm going to say picture. And what do I want? I want row picture. I want row 1, and then I want column 2. Okay, picture row 1 column 2. Now this will return an individual number. Now I want you to tell me, what number is this going to return? I want to print picture row 1 column 2. What's it going to return? Let's see. Okay, it is 7, because remember, this is 0, this is row 0. This is row 1, and then once I'm in row 1, then I want element 2. This is element 0, element 1, and element 2. Pretty neat, huh? And that was indeed the number 7. Now you can actually make a 3-dimensional array, and you would do that by putting an extra set of outside brackets, and then you would have brackets, and you would sort of nest these so you could have multi-dimensional arrays. Most of the time you'll have a 1 or 2-dimensional array. There's a small number of times you'll actually come back and have a 3-dimensional array, and you really I can't really ever think of very many examples where you have an array with more than 3 dimensions, but Python can accommodate it. You just sort of continue the pattern that we have here. Now you can also, you don't have to just deal with numbers, you can deal with strings. So I could say fruits, and fruits is equal to, and then I could say apple, apple, and then end that string, and then I could say banana, and then I could say orange, and then I could say grape. Okay, then close that array. Close that array, and then print fruits. Boom, apple, banana, orange, grape. Or I could index an individual fruit. So I could say print, and I want to print fruits, and I want to print fruits of 1. Tell me what that is going to print. Tell me what that is going to print. It is going to print the most excellent banana, because this is position 0 and this is position 1. So I can do something like that. Now again, Python gives you enough flexibility to kill yourself, and so I could say fruits, and I could say, or let's say that I could put grades, and grades are going to be equal to, and I'm going to say 97, and I'm going to say 34, and I'm going to say 23, and 99, and then I'm going to put banana, and then I'm going to put 100. Okay, now you see this is kind of crazy, isn't it? So you see it let me put a banana as a grade. Is that a smart thing to do? No, that's a very stupid thing to do. But Python gives you enough flexibility to be stupid. So I can say print, and I can say print grades of 0. And what am I going to get? Grades of 0 is a 97 as expected. Or I can say print, and I could say grades of 4, like that. And what is my 4th grade? My 4th grade is banana. Now if you tried to add these numbers up and you had a string in your list, it's going to crash, and then you're going to have a lot of trouble understanding what it is. Now what I could also say is, I could say x is equal to 97, I could say y is equal to 34, I could say z is equal to 23, I could say a is equal to 99, I could say b is equal to 100, and I could say c is equal to 101, and then I could say grades are equal to, and then I could put x, comma, y, comma, z, comma, a, comma, B, comma, C, C. Now, what do you see here? Okay, what do you see here? Okay, it likes it, and now I'm going to print grades. Okay, it prints the numbers, because you have to see that this sees it as a variable, the variable x, and this is very, very different than if you had put it in like this. It's very, very different than if you had put it in as strings. Okay, so I could put it in like that, and now if I say print grades, it's going to print what? It's going to print those strings. So you got to understand the difference between the variable x versus the string x. Okay, so again, we got to kind of keep track of our variable types. Now this is also kind of something crazy. This is something crazy about Python. Let me go back and get my fruits. Okay. What if I copied that and I come back and put it back in and get my fruits array back in there? All right. Now, I am going to print fruits of, I'm going to print fruits of 1. What is that going to print? What's that going to print? You got it. It's going to print banana. But you remember up here when I had a 2-dimensional array, remember I made this 2-dimensional array up here? That was not what I wanted to do. Not what I wanted to do at all. Okay, so here is this 2-dimensional array, and then I said print picture 1, 1. Well, that took row 1 and then position 1, right? This is row 1, position 0, row 1, position 1. And so I can index an individual number. What if I came here and said print, and I said banana, because this is just a 1-dimensional array, but what if I did something crazy like said print fruit, and I'm going to print fruit of 1, and I'm going to put another index on here, and I'm going to say a second index of 2. So what do you think this is going to print if I print fruits, plural, fruits 1 and then 2? What do you think that's going to do? Any guesses? Python's kind of crazy. It'll always just kind of figure something out. So what is fruits of 1? That is banana. And then what does it do with the 2? Well, it says he must want to bust that up. So I'll bust it up. So this is banana of 0. This is banana of 1, and this is banana of 2. That is the letter N. So you can actually index strings by using, by kind of getting Python to treat it as an array. So that's just kind of like one of those crazy things that Python will do. Okay, now a lot of times if you wanted to input grades, you don't know how many grades there are, and you're going to have to, the program's going to have to ask the user for the grades. And so instead of like saying X, instead of saying grades of 2 is equal to, let's see if I can do this, grades of 2 is equal to 55. Okay, remember I already printed grades, but now let me print grades again. Print grades again, and when I print grades again, oh, okay, you see it went and changed. Let me get my good grade array up here. Where is a reasonable grade array? Okay, here it is. Okay, let me get this one. Okay, so you see that's my list of grades. Now watch this. I can say grades of 1 is equal to 25. Okay, and now if I print grades, look at that. Now where I had a 98, I just changed it to 25. So you can go in and you can manipulate those things. But a lot of times, like if you made a program to track grades for a teacher, you wouldn't want the teacher who's not a programmer to have to go in and edit the code. You would want them to be able to input the grades, and you don't know how many grades they're going to input. You don't know how many grades they might have. So a lot of times in your program, you will just have to start by saying X is an empty array. Now you do this so that it knows that X is an array, X is not a variable. And so like if I just said X equals 7, then it's going to erase over that. But I'm going to start with X is equal to an array. Okay, so X is an array. Now, what if I wanted to put a number in that array? Like, what if I said X of 1 is equal to 97? Okay, when I do that, I get an out of I get an out of range error. The index is out of range because X is what? Empty. And I said put in the first slot in slot 1 a 97. There is no 1 slot because it's empty, so it errors out. And so if you start with an empty array, how do you put numbers in it? Well, you do it like this. You can't do, like a lot of programming languages would let you do something like this. You can't do something like this in Python. So the way you would do it is you would have to put it in one at a time. And so you would say X, let's go and make sure, print X And you see X is empty. So what you have to do is you have to say X dot append. And so you want to do the method append. You're doing an append onto X. And then what are you going to append? Now notice I'm not using the brackets because I'm not giving it an index. I'm passing to the function append a number, and that number is 97. Okay, so I'm appending to X 97, and now I'm going to print X like that. And there is a list with how many numbers in it? One number. It's the 0th number is 97. Well, I could do that again. X dot append, and I could append the number 85. And now I say print X. Okay, I could print X of 1. Okay, and it's 85 because it's in the position 1. Now, do you see that when you're calling functions, you typically use parentheses, but if you're giving an index on a variable, you will use the square brackets. Now, why is append? Append is a function. It is a function that Python knows, and therefore you're passing the number 97 to the append function, which is attached to the variable X. Hopefully that makes sense, but you got to kind of keep track of the difference between the square brackets and the old-fashioned parentheses. And so that is some pretty nice stuff there. Okay, guys, this has been hopefully a good lesson for you. What I need you guys to do is I need you guys to go around and kind of play with these things. I don't have a formal homework assignment, but I need you to go in and just on your own as a homework assignment, play around with all of these things where you are completely comfortable with how to end up at the right index on these variables. Okay. Guys, I really hope much fun taking these lessons as I am making the lessons. Again, really appreciate you guys for helping me out over at Patreon. The rest of you guys, give me a thumbs up on this video. It really helps me with the old YouTube algorithms to get some thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. I read every single comment. And if you guys haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Okay, Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.